1967, next slide. I'm sorry. It's kind of a fade in. The Fair Credit Reporting Act was passed. This is what I mentioned, I alluded to earlier, that the Federal Trade Commission has control over those agencies. You have to be told if something is used against you in your pursuit of a loan or lending. They cannot deny you the information. Prior to 1967, they could and did. And they didn't even have to tell you your score, and most of the time wouldn't. And you didn't have any legal recourse. But now you have to be told that information and why you're not accessing a loan. You can also access your own file, which you were not able to do. You can dispute any inaccuracies. Now, this means if you find something that's you know is inaccurate, you can dispute that. You can dispute it online, and the credit agency, in their connection or contact with the lender, has 30 days to respond back to the credit agency. Now, they may find that yes, the information is inaccurate, and it will come off, actually disappear from the credit report. If you are doing this and thinking, well, it will go away, yes, it will, but it will come back if the creditor says, no, that information is accurate. Some people have tried to, take some bad things off their report and have not been, knew it was not accurate. Outdated information must be removed. That really depends on what kind of information it is. I did mention CAFRs. There is an address on my credit file, which is the old P.O. box for them, because I used to get my credit card statement, so my husband wouldn't see it. I have to be honest with you. Now, that information still shows there. I have not had that removed. That doesn't bother me, but it could be something that is on there that you're not wanting, and if it's outdated, it can certainly be removed. Access to your file is limited to those people that do have a legal right to it. Now, legal being you've signed on the dotted line, requesting a loan, and you've given them permission to pull your credit file. You go to the car dealer, you should have signed on the dotted line before they pull your report. Now, a lot of them they're just really anxious, and they will do that before you give them actual written permission. So you need to be careful about that, because you may not want them to pull your credit report. So you want to be aware of that. There are other folks that pull credit that you may not be aware. Insurance agencies or insurance. It's not the sole guideline for basing your annual premium, but it does factor into it. Employers, not just financial institutions, pull credit files. When you make application, you do have to sign a waiver that yes, it's okay to do the credit file. Rental agencies, make sure I've got everybody. Utility companies, of course, cell phone companies, they're all going to pull that. And somewhere in the fine print that you're signing gives them that permission to pull your credit file. Yes?
Couldn't your husband pull your credit file and see that deal box?
Yeah, but he would see a zero balance.
Oh.
Yeah. Yes, if he could remember all the details, that would get you to the credit file, because you can't just go to annualcreditreport.com and put in my name. You would have to know my social. You would have to know my birth date.
You're saying that he would falter right there.
I'm saying he would. You had a question.
Yeah. I was wondering, does the state of Florida, especially this department, go into the credit report when the person applies for a job? No.
Good question. Also, lenders that you have credit with, they do periodic reviews of your credit to see how you're doing. Yes, ma'am.
That was going to be my question, because there are certain inquiries that impact your scores, and then
Yes,
there's
ma'am.
certain that does not impact your scores.
Right.
What's the difference?
If you can wait just a couple of slides, we'll get right into that,
Oh, okay.
okay? The next thing is FICO stands for Fair Isaac Company. There was actually a Bill Fair and Earl Isaac that founded Fair Isaac Company, and they came up with the secret mathematical formula to determine a FICO score, which is what they call it. It's still a secret, so all we can do in trying to determine our score are, they will tell us the factors that come into play. They start at 300 and go as high as 850. I think it's Experian that's playing around with something in the 900 range. But most lenders accept the FICO score, and that's what they base their guidelines on. And it's really just a beginning for any lender. It's just, they have other factors that come into play that are based on things that they have internally.
Is it the same as the Beacon score? Is it
Yes, it is. Experian, is it Empirica? I think it's Empirica. One of them has Empirica, so you might hear that. Beacon score, credit score, FICO score. Score is the operative word there. But here is the range. Prime, it starts at 680 and goes up to 850. Average, 620 to 680. Small window, 60 points there. Whereas the prime has, a 200 almost spread. Subprime, 560, again, 60 points to 620. And then below sub is 560 or less, down to the 300. Again, a huge range. Those two middle ranks are fairly small. So you could be in that average and something hit your credit file, like a collection item that you didn't know was there, and it could drop at 100 points. Doesn't matter the amount of the collection item. All right, next is what comes into the figuring out this 3-digit secret code are 5 areas. The most, has the most effect is the payment history. How have you paid? 35%. How much do you owe? 30%. The length of time you've had a credit history, and it's not a score killer if you have a short history. How much new credit have you pursued in the last 6 months is the biggest impact, is 10, and the types of credit that you have. And we'll go into detail about that. First, looking at the payment history, which is really a track record of how you paid. Those collection items, that's where they fall, because that's an indication that you've not paid them. Have you done it on time? A lot of people think that just because I get the payment there, and maybe I pay some late fees, that doesn't affect you, but it does. It has a tremendous impact on that, because you fall into that delinquency range. The judgments, the bankruptcies, the foreclosures, the tax levies, that's where they show in the payment history. And how frequently have delinquencies been? For instance, you were delinquent one time, it's been 5 years ago, because your husband forgot to mail the payment. Left it on the dashboard of his truck, drove around with it for 2 weeks. Does that sound like a personal experience? Yes, it is. Okay, but it only happened one time, and it's been 5 years, because since then you have taken control over making payments. Or does it show that every 30 days you have a late, or you've not been able to keep it up, and it's just a standard operating procedure for you, or it's somewhere in between those two?